suppose first of all, Rick, what are you up to?
Okay, well, welcome everybody, because I haven't been back here for a while. But I was looking down at the bowls club over here, and when I first came down in 1970, Rick Shoff used to kick it at training, and he was a shit of a kick, and he used to go into the bowls club, and I was over there, and I got through that gate over there, used to run across the bowls club, grab the football, and then come back and say, right, where's Sandy Nelson? What I'll do is I'll take off now, and I'll give him a handball, and then I'll run over there and perhaps get it again. But Bob Schumann used to get it over there and then kick it into the tennis court, and I thought, well, geez, that could be a good kick too. So I've got Rick Soft kicking into here, and Bobby Schumann kicking over the back. That's how I started. And of course, I got home one day, Jack Odie rang my father and said, can Rick come down this week? And that's how powerful this club was back in 1970. They were just unbelievable. So that's what am I doing now?
As in WA, nothing to do with how we digress.
Everyone in the room would probably say, yeah, well, that's there. Jack used to sit in the corner there and shout out, kick it to him, or we had to turn around on the frippers and try and get it back to him. And then he would just look at you and goes, he'd just look at you and go, if the prick there at centre half forward could get hold of the ball. And we used to just cringe, and it was just an amazing situation. And Sandy, who I played with for years, and today it's great because Rob Mumford from North Adelaide, we used to come down together and train, and it was always a bit of fun. And today to be here with the record breaking today, I think, isn't it? Breaking the minor round game today, and it's great to see so many people here as well.
Yeah, just on that, obviously your first time back in this room. Back in the day, Over the Road was a pretty amazing venue in itself.
Yes.
And with a number of bars, and I suppose through the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, it would have been heaving over there. Well, because it was like Over the Road.
Good work over there, you know. Very good work after the moment. Jack was, he didn't like us drinking pints, after the game. I'll never forget this young fella, I think at Donaldson, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he went up, he's only a little bloke, but he went up to the bar and he said, I'll have 2 pints, thank you. Anyway, Jack saw him, and he went over there and he said to him, now listen, champions drink schooners. And in your case, get a pony and ride the train at the home. So we all knew after a while that after the game, you definitely didn't drink pints. And if you had a bit of a race, Sandy was, well, he was the golden haired boy, playing 7 premierships, set a half back. Absolutely unbelievable player he was, and he was about the only one that could actually drink schooner. So we all had to drink ponies, but you don't realise how many poor ponies go. It's actually
A mouthful, it is. I'm going to go backwards a little bit. So we had the fortune to listen to you yesterday.
right.
And something I learned that you were dropped off as a boarder at the age of 12.
Yep.
So that's an interesting thing. I mean, I didn't know that, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room didn't, but being dropped off in boarding school at the age of 12 is probably not the easiest thing.
Well,
Parents probably were pretty happy to get rid of you.
I can remember Mum and Dad had a white Rambler car, and they dropped me off, and Dad said, do your best. I didn't know what that was, but a little bit later. Anyway, so they drove out, and there I was, at 12 years of age, and we were in that preparatory school for the first year, 9 of us. We had to get up at 7 o'clock, we had to make our bed, we had to work our way through the whole thing. I didn't change my undies for about 3 weeks. I didn't know really where you put it. But I worked that all out, and then we'd kick on the back oval, and then slowly but surely you come in. I'll never forget the bloke, Peter Solomon. His lad played for Fremantle. He said, you want to smoke? And I said, oh, yeah, I can remember what it was, an Alpine. I went down the back and I took this huge thing out of that, and I never smoked since. It just blew my head completely off.
Anyway, so moving on from there, obviously it's, I suppose, well known that you didn't play at the first 18 at PAC. When did someone realise that you could play football, or who was it that sort of said, give you a go? Where did it all start?
Okay, where it all started was Jack Davies played for Maitland, and then he played a little bit for Port Victoria, I think I did. Yeah, he played a little bit, and his best friend was Dad's cousin, Stan Davies. Now, Wayne Davies came down and played us there back in the good old days. He didn't play a lot of games, but he did. So actually, I got a little bit of a carte through, if you'd understand. But when I went to college, and then I went home in 68 and played 69 for Port Victoria. And then Jack came over and said, right, you want to go? I don't think I was sitting in, we wouldn't have been sitting in any grass really, but I'd grown a foot since I left the OC. So I'm 5'2". I never fed us there, we only ever had soup and water. So as soon as Mum got hold of me, I grew a foot, so I was 6'2". So Auntie Maureen, who was Dad's sister, said, right, you can live with us. So I came down for a year, and that was in 1970. And I remember at the Adelaide Oval, John Tilbrook, pouring with rain, and he had it at centre forward, he kicked the goal, and I was sitting right behind the goal, so it missed me by, if I'd have put my hand up earlier, I could have marked it. And I reckon he's kicked it 70 metres in the pouring rain, and they won the flag, and that was 5 in a row.
That was the first memory of watching, or?
Well, my first game was here against Woodville. I stood Ray Buckley, which is Nathan Buckley's father. And I'll never forget, I went over to that pocket over there, and I kicked the goal, and Noel Teasdale grabbed hold of me, and he said, touch it again and I'll kill you. I looked up at him, and he had that big band across his forehead, and he said, and just don't be in my road. And I shit myself. I really did. I thought to myself, well, this is it. And I kicked 5.
And what game was that, bang?
My
First game?
Yeah.
What was it like playing at Unley Oval with, I don't know, what was capacity back in the day, 14?
Yeah, well, I would have thought so. You know, getting a park and coming down, and we had our meeting at 1:30. And the crowd were always fantastic, you know, after the games and all that. The fans, it is so disappointing that it's got to this. Port Adelaide cheated everybody to get into the AFL and went behind everyone's back. I've hated them since my first game down there, and it's just it just ruined, I think, the whole situation. I don't know, like over in Perth, you've got the West Coast, shit, they're terrible, and then you've got Fremantle, they're a little bit better, but at least you've got a mix of everybody over there, whereas here, like when Port Adelaide came in, they wanted 30,000 supporters. And, they got 22,000 supporters, and the rest were dogs and cats. So you couldn't take your dog and your cat to the footy. But Essendon had done it, and that's how they got through. So, the reason I know this is because in 2014, I was sitting with Max Bashir, and I said, well, I'm the only PAC old scholar that's ever been in the Hall of Fame. And he said, no, you're not. I said, well, who else is it? And he said, me. I said, how many goals did you kick, you little prick? And he went, he played for Adelaide Uni a bit. And then he told me the story. He said he had to go to court to stop Port Adelaide getting into the AFL, but they'd already done a deal with whatever it was called, it doesn't matter, Demetrio, for 96. So they sort of shortchanged everybody and got in. Anyway, they got in, they redid Adelaide Oval, and to their credit, I've got a bar named after me, so I think that you're bloody good on them.
It's good for the Hall of Fame, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, isn't it?
Now, going back to the Jumbo Prince, your mate Peter Darley just got inducted.
Yep.
Who was the original Jumbo
Yes, he
Prince.
was. Yep.
So how did that get passed on?
I don't know. I think it was KG, but it was interesting the other day. Peter Daly worked for TAA, and he got his name from the Jumbo Jet that came in that year.
Right.
So he got free trips all over the place, and if anyone heard his speech, he even got on the plane and flew to England. They were playing Glenelg on the following Saturday. He went and saw Bob, whoever he was, take 15 wickets. Got back on the plane, drank this all the way home, and played on the Saturday. So that's how he got the name, this is Jumbo, because he flew around for nothing. And then KG named me after, because he finished in 74.
Yeah.
So he was 81 the other day. So he finished in 74. So I had a couple of years with him, and you couldn't move him, but you could outrun him and outmanoeuvre him, and I got the tag as the prick. So, and I tell you, a lot of people say, hello, Jumbo, how are you? Going well. And I said, don't you know my name? No, we have no idea who you are, but we know you're the Jumbo. Like Rick Davies didn't have any idea who he really was. So that name's lasted for, and I've been proud of it.
Yeah. You mentioned yesterday you came runner-up in the 1974 Magarey Medal. How close were you?
Well, that's very, very interesting, that is. 3 laps to go and I'm leading by 7. I'm thinking, how good is this? Got me notebook out and I'm starting to take notes. I want to take Mum, Dad, whoever else, going to do this, going to do that. Port Adelaide. And it wasn't in order in those days. It was sort of, any old how. We're down to the 3 boats. Anyway, I don't know who it was. Probably Brenda or someone like that was got up in his time. Port Adelaide versus Central Districts. Either. Oh, I thought, I'm down to 4. I started to put that away. Then it came Port Adelaide, Glenelg. Either. I thought, you thieving pricks. I thought, you've done this deliberately. Foster, you little I thought, I knew it. He wouldn't even come down past centre half forward. I used to look it up and say, you little down here. So I knew I wasn't going to get any votes. And then the next one I couldn't care. Ebert got beat by 2. Rat your ticket up. Go home.
On that, Robin, Ebert, or Bagshaw? Which one?
Well, I always, when I first got to that Hall of Fame situation, and there was Russell, and there was Barry, and there was myself, and between us, we won 7 medals. And they said, what? Barry won, Russell won 4, and Russell won 3. I mean, no, we had none. And then little Lindsay Head comes across and says, I won 4. So we got 11 between us. So, Robin, who else?
Ebert and Bagshaw.
Well, put it this way, the best player I've ever seen is Wayne Carey by a mile. Second best is Lee Matthews. And third best is, take your pick out of the other ball, it's like the Sun or Gary. For Sturt, Paul Batchel could do anything, really. Sands would, if we were getting beaten at our forward, Jack would just put bags there. He could get out of a wet bag. That's how good he was. And he could dodge and he could kick and he could do any possible thing. Russell, Port Adelaide, hated them, so he wouldn't get a vote in my book. Who else? Barry Robin. Barry was a champion, no question about that. He could fly like a bird. He wasn't soft. You looked at him and you go, he's soft this week. No, he wasn't. He was as hard as a nail. And he was a champion player. He could do any leg, he could do anything. So really, I don't want to split him. I really don't want to split him. Russell, I liked. I played golf, I played tennis, I did everything. He was a lovely fellow. There's only 3 picks I'll tilt for in Port Adelaide. Bucky Cunningham, Russell, he died. And well, it's a long way to the next one, if we don't like it. But I would like just to keep it at that they were both great players.
Yeah.
And I was lucky to play with bags.
So, talking about leading goal kicking, 151 and 102. These days, no one gets any near that something. So, you couldn't sit down there and do it yourself. There must have been people feeding you.
Oh, there were some fantastic players. But, we talk 151 goals. I remember that I was, they named, the Sturt Footy Club named the Rick Davies medal for the goal kicking. And I came down. I had a few beers with Sads. As a matter of fact, we took along pretty well. And they invited me up and they said, listen, you'll present the prize. I said, don't worry about that. I'll present the prize. So I opened up the envelope and it was Julian Burton with 36 goals. I went, by the 5th round. Anyway, so that didn't go down all that well with too many. And then if anyone was there, they'd remember it. And then the other really bad thing I said was Doc Clarkson when I got named as the #1 ruckman in the century. And I said, Doc Clarkson, I could have beat. But that didn't go down all the other. Sandy said to me, listen, you've got to be around at his place tomorrow to apologise. Well, I was seedy all night. And I thought, oh, Doc, and he was the most beautiful person in the world. Don't get me wrong. And I opened the door, and his wife went, about time. I sat down with Doc and I apologised to him. But something that I really do regret. What was the question?
Did anyone feed you these goals, or did you just
I remember Bobby Sheehan coming out of the centre here. He had the brown boots on. We all had the Rossies on, and he had the specials, leather ones. We couldn't get them. Don't know why. And he drop kicked it here, and Malcolm Greenslade was led out to the right. Always led out to the right. Bobby Sheehan kicked a drop kick, and it went like a bullet, hit him, and put him over the boundary on the other side there. So that's what was coming out. Like, it was funny because Michael Noonan, who's here today, it's great to see him. Everyone said, oh, you're a very smart ruckman. I had absolutely no clue.
So you've gone off track completely.
Well, just hold on.
So in 1985, was Bob Shimmy playing?
Probably not.
No. So you kicked 151 goals in 1985, 84, 102.
What mess up a good
Did
story?
anyone feed you these goals?
So Brett Miles, we had some great players, really. Can't really remember. It doesn't really matter, does it? I'm sitting in the I'm sitting in the stand there, and I'm down calling the grand final with KG, and Scotty Hodges hurt his leg. It went off just before half time, and Kay said to me, you'd be disappointed that he's gone off, wouldn't you? I said, you don't worry about that, I hope he stays on. Anyway, so Bloody come back on, kick 4, beat me by 1. That was in the grand final. He was a great player too, Scotty.
The Flash?
Sorry, now with Michael, right? Now Michael, he would tell me exactly where I had to stand, how I could hit it, how hard to hit it, when to touch it, and then I just went along with that. That was just what I did.
So speaking of that, Mike Noonan, 259 games, 5 premierships, 3 state games, and 2 premierships as a coach.
Well, he left us. He went to Norwood. It's just a prick. But him and Lee Sweeter, they pissed off. They beat us in the final, and they want forgiveness.
Mick was good enough to introduce me to Sturt, so that was a good thing.
Oh, that's all right. And he was a good little coach too.
Sandy Nelson as well, 244 games, 7 premierships, 10 state games. So there's a lot of premierships between 3 people in this room.
I tell you.
And also, I can't forget, because his son asked me to do it, was Jimmy Katsaris, 1 league game and a reserves for Gary Medal. That's from his son Tom.
Well, Jimmy was a fantastic little bloke. He's a great doctor. He fixed up my wife's something. He's a doctor. And didn't charge me the full, and I'll never ever forget it. Anyway, so where were we? Yeah.
Where do you want to be?
I sort of was very lucky because Sandy, I don't forget Sands, had 7 premierships. 7 premierships. Talking about Hall of Famer.
First year of playing football?
Yep. And there was a couple of things with Sands, and I'll always remember it. He looked after me on my first game, and we won, I don't know what year it was, we went to Sydney to play New South Wales. And there was this Indigenous person, lovely bloke, he played for South Adelaide, he came back and played for South Adelaide. It was pouring with rain, and we were half cut anyway, so Jack was pretty disappointed. Anyway, Sands was standing this bloke that they were all talking about. He could run, he could bark. Well, Sandy never got near him for the first quarter. He kicked about 4 goals. And then Jack came in and said, if that centre half back could just get hold of the ball. He never mentioned names. He never would say, Rick, you get hold of it. He'd always say his position and all that sort of thing. He was unbelievable. Anyway, so out we come after half time, and Sands swoops the ball up like a bloody seagull. I thought, you beauty, he's back. And he took off, and we went to bounce the ball, and it went straight in a puddle of water, never come up, and Sands went through with a kick, and they all went, the bloody ball back here, Sands. It didn't come up, it just logged in the water. And that bloke went on and played at South Adelaide, and the next time Sands stood in, he just didn't get a kick. He did not get a kick. But one of the all-time greats.
Coaching. So you coached Sturt and South?
Got the sack.
Yep.
Yeah. I went to Mervyn Kay and I said, listen, what do you want to do? Ian Wilmot's doing well. I said, yeah, okay, no, I'll play the reserves. He said, no, you can't play the reserves because you can't get out. I said, well, 2 old for under 19s. And he went, okay, no worries at all. So I left. Well, I got sacked. And that's good. Then, of course, the thing didn't work with Mervyn, did it? It broke the club. And then when I came back, it was still broken. There was 2 divisions within the club. Well, we all know that. You don't have to talk shit on that. And then it got to the stage where they finished bottom for the next 8 years.
Yep.
And now they're coming back, which is fantastic to see. But it's also disappointing that we're not in the AFL. So we're not in the AFL. Well, it's sort of got to the stage where now it's sort of, how many did you get to the footy now? 1,500, something like that? There used to be 25,000 here. Yeah, 3,000. But anyway, that's what it is, and that's why we're here. And we lived in the best time, I suppose, obviously.
Now, you trip over to Hawthorn, you touched on it yesterday. You said it was a great time.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your little jaunt over there.
Well, it was John Kennedy came out to the farm, and we got talking, and I was going to go, and Jack would always talk me out of it. But I thought, right, 29 years of age, Cornsey had gone, Russell had gone, So I thought, well, perhaps I'll give it an opportunity. And Dad said to me, if you're going, go. If you're staying, shut up. So he said, no, if you're going, piss off. If you're staying, shut up. So I went, got in the car, drove over to Hawthorn. We had the best year. We didn't make the finals, I don't think, that year. But even to today, I'm one of the club. I only played the 1 year. People keep on telling me I only played the 1 year. So why would I be invited into the club? But I sit on their table. It's just fantastic. But, yep, Gabby Jeans, Lethal Lee, and Peter Knights, they were just stars. And I'm lucky to have had that on.
Just quickly down to the change rooms over there. Old Dougie Clark.
That was fun.
Memories of Doug. Great guy. I loved him.
He was the medical man, of course. Straight down the line, him and Jack were like that. You know, you come in, you try and get into his room, and you try and do this, and you try and do that. Distract everybody. I don't really know. They just love it, and he was one of those that just loved Jack and the club, and he did everything. He would just do anything for you medically. You know, I used to have an injection in the knee, and he'd bring in the right people and all that sort of stuff. The people like that you just only meet once in your life. Yeah. And he was that.
Got to sort of wrap it up a little bit, but do you follow the Blues a little bit from Mo and WA?
Benny Shaggett, he was a mate of mine. We have a punt every week, and he used to do the security here and do the fencing and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I hear that, you know, what's going on and all that sort of stuff. So. You never ever can relearn. But then the other day, the South Adelaide boys rang me and said, "Oh, can we meet up with a bit of a drink?" So I can sort of share myself around. I can do a little bit of Hawthorn, a little bit of South Adelaide, a little bit of PAC Old Scholars. In 1977, when we never made the final, I went out and played at Port Victoria with my brother, and that Cadena hadn't been beaten for the year. They'd named me on the bench twice during the year. My father did. And everyone, when I ran out, Dad said, "You better go that way, and I'll take your bag that way," at Meter Oval. Well, I had 7 at half time, and they started to throw stones on it. So I had to actually go off, and then we played Cadena in the following week and beat them easily. And that was their last sort of, you know, quarter that sort of closed up. But no, I've had so much fun. Really, I've been so lucky, really.
We had a question from the crowd yesterday. It was actually Rick coached the Burnside School.
Yeah.
Grade 1 and 2 or whatever?
No, the grade 1 and 2.
Anyway, this guy was the father of one of the kids. Yeah. Obviously, the kid would be old now. It was one of the funniest. It was actually funnier than you. Because he got up and said, "My son came home from the game today, and excuse me, the coach told me, you're doing really." 6-year-old kid has come home, told his parents.
Well, the worst one was my instruction to them was, when you handball, it's the top of the. If he misses it, he gets himself into a little bit of trouble. They love it, and I've still got people, hundreds of people who were there and always Rick. And if you think about it, it's a bloody good way, isn't it? We should. How many times they handball now, not to the top? They hit a handball to the ground, and you go, "You're getting 600,000. Can't bloody handball it, and you can't kick it. And you go backwards, you go sideways, and you handball far too much. It's shit, the football these days, and you know it."
Quite strong on that.
Sorry about that. I want that little kicking backwards to be just immediately put out of the game. I want the 50-metre rule where you've got to run around and stay in one position. That's just crap. Well, that is stand up. And then you've got, you're all right, you come out of a pack and you kick it on the ground, it goes out of bounds. Well, you can get a pack and you can come in and punch it out of bounds. Of course, that's all right. What crap. Anyway, I watch it. I'm hoping they play a little bit better this afternoon. I'd give Dave in the pocket.
Only time here.
Well,
It's absolutely brilliant to have you here. I'm glad that you've experienced the room, and Mick Noonan said first time here, and then probably a number of first time. It's terrific to have some great people in the room, which is always great.